Today's story, we are going to read about Sacagewa. Remember, we're reading this week about heroes because we're wrapping up our theme of heroes. And yesterday we read about Paul and how he saved the life of Mr. Terry by helping to pump his rocking bed when the generators were almost out of gas during the hurricane. So today we're going to read about Sacagewa. And we're going to learn about Sacagewa, a young Native American woman who changes history by saving an important scientific journey from near disaster. Take a look at our vocabulary words. Here are our words. We have the word practical, which means showing good judgment. Core, not corpse, but core, a group of people working together. Scurvy is a disease that causes bleeding gums and weakness. A pirogue is a boat made from a hollow tree trunk. Instruments are tools. And a squall is a sudden gust of wind. So those are the vocabulary words that you'll have to work with in your packet a little bit later today. Sacagewa by Judith St. George. It is 1804. The United States has just doubled in size with the purchase of the Louisiana Territory, thousands of square miles of vast western lands. The newly formed Corps of Discovery, led by Captains Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, has set out to explore and map this unknown territory. At Fort Mandan, their winter camp, a young Shoshone woman named Sacagewa joins the explorers along with her husband Charbonneau and their infant son Pomp. As they set out along the mighty Missouri River, the group soon recognizes her as a key member of this historic journey of discovery. Sacagewa was practical by nature, and from the very beginning she was on the lookout for ways to help. When the Corps camped for the night, she and York put up the buffalo skin teepee that she slept in with Charbonneau, Pomp, Lewis, Clark, and Dollard. All the others camped in the open. On the third day out, Sacagewa noticed a mound of loose dirt near some driftwood. She knew right away what it was. Poking in the dirt with a sharp stick, she found a large stockpile of white roots that a gopher had stored away. The roots were the size of a man's finger and quite delicious. The men told her that they tasted just like Jerusalem artichokes. Every time the Corps stopped, Sacagewa searched for flavorful berries and roots, and she knew what she was doing. She was a Shoshone, and for most of the year, Shoshones lived on wild plants, roots, and fish. With Pomp in his cradle bundle, Sacagewa picked baskets of red berries, service berries, gooseberries, chokecherries, and purple currants. She dug up prairie turnips, small white onions, and wild licorice. Because game was plentiful, almost every meal was boiled, fried, or roasted meat. Although the men especially liked buffalo tongues and beaver tails, their favorite was a buffalo sausage that Charbonneau cooked, which he called boudin blanc. His finishing touch was to fry the sausage in bear oil. An all-meat diet caused a disease called scurvy. Sacagewa had no way of knowing that fruits and vegetables prevented scurvy. Nevertheless, the berries and roots that she constantly gathered went a long way in keeping the men healthy. Young as she was, Sacagewa also proved herself to be cool in a crisis. A few weeks into their journey up the Missouri River, she and Pomp were sitting under an awning in the white pirogue. Charbonneau, Cruzat, and 4 other men were also aboard, as were the captain's journals, instruments, papers, medicine kit, and trade goods, which they planned to give to the Indians along the way. Lewis called Charbonneau the most timid waterman in the world. Only a short time before, he had been steersman when a strong gust of wind had almost overturned the pirogue. He had instantly panicked. Nevertheless, for some unknown reason, he was once again at the helm. All of a sudden, a squall hit. The wind ripped the sail away from the man holding it, and the pirogue tipped at a dangerous angle. Charbonneau again panicked. Instead of putting the boat into the wind, he left it broadside and heeled it over. Only the awning over Sacagewa and Pomp saved the pirogue from capsizing. Sure that they were about to die, Charbonneau started screaming for mercy. Granted, he couldn't swim, but then neither could other 2 men on board. Although Sacagewa was a strong swimmer, Pomp was strapped in his cradle bundle on her back, and she was helpless as anyone else. As the pirogue filled with water, Cruzat yelled at Charbonneau to turn the boat into the wind. Charbonneau turned to his senses and grabbed the rudder. Cruzat then ordered 2 of the men to take down the sail, and the other 2 to start bailing. If anyone had reason to panic, it was Sacagewa, who carried her darling Pomp in his cradle bundle, but she didn't. Barely able to balance herself in the stern of the boat that was already filled with water, Sacagewa first made sure that Pomp was safe. She then reached out and grabbed everything that was floating past her into the river. She had no idea what she was rescuing. All she knew was that the captain set great store by all these papers and equipment they had packed in watertight bags. By the time Cruzat and the other men were able to row to shore, the pirogue was barely above water. Although Cruzat's quick thinking may have saved them from drowning, Sacagawea's quick thinking had saved what Lewis later would say was worth his life. Until now, Lewis hadn't paid much attention to Sacagewa, one way or the other, but he praised her courage and cool-headedness. Sacagewa thought nothing of it. She had seen what needed to be done and did it. That was all. Sacagawea couldn't speak English to the soldiers or even French to her husband, but their journey had hardly gotten underway when she proved herself to be as valuable to Lewis and Clark as any man in the company. After the episode on the river, the Corps of Discovery journeyed on for 2 more years through boiling river rapids and over high snowy mountain passes. Sacagawea's quiet daily heroism would help ensure the success of their long and dangerous journey west. Serving as an interpreter, navigator, and advisor all in one, Sacagawea's knowledge of the lands and people of the West would help her become a valuable member of the exploration party and claim her rightful place in American history. So you can see how Sacagawea was definitely a hero to Lewis and Clark and their expedition, and we will learn more about that in social studies this year, just how important of an expedition that was. I hope you have a great rest of your day, 4th graders.